It began like any ordinary afternoon in Maple Hills, a quiet, picturesque neighborhood where lawns were neatly trimmed, neighbors waved from porches, and safety was taken for granted. But in an instant, that peaceful illusion shattered. Two uniformed men claiming to be HOA enforcement officers stormed into our lives, arresting my wife, Sarah, in broad daylight. Yet these were no ordinary imposters, and Sarah was no ordinary suburban wife. Beneath her gentle smile lay a hidden identity, one powerful enough to unravel their entire charade. Little did we know, this shocking encounter was merely the first step toward uncovering a nationwide conspiracy. Life in the quiet suburban neighborhood of Maple Hills had always moved at a gentle, reassuring pace. Located just outside of Denver, Colorado, this was a community where neighbors waved hello from meticulously trimmed front yards and families gathered on porches for lemonade on warm summer evenings. Streets lined with neatly mowed lawns and large oak trees offered a comforting, familiar sense of security, a place that felt untouched by the complexities of the outside world. Tom Peterson and his wife, Sarah, had called Maple Hills home for nearly 25 years. Both approaching retirement, they had embraced the peaceful routines of community potlucks, Sunday gardening, and leisurely strolls around the neighborhood lake. Tom often joked that their biggest concern was ensuring their grass stayed green enough to meet neighborhood standards, while Sarah would smile knowingly, her quiet nature blending seamlessly into the suburban backdrop. Sarah, a thoughtful and reserved woman in her late 50s, was admired by the neighbors for her delicious homemade pies and discreet kindness, frequently checking in on elderly residents living alone. Her official occupation, one she openly shared, was as a consultant for a modest tech startup in nearby Aurora. It was an entirely believable and unremarkable profession, offering plausible explanations whenever her job required occasional business trips out of town. Yet beneath Sarah's calm, friendly exterior lay an entirely different reality, known only to Tom. Sarah was actually a senior analyst for the CIA, specializing in sensitive data operations. Her role required discretion, discipline, and an ability to compartmentalize her professional and private lives, a balance she had expertly maintained for decades. All of this made what happened on a seemingly ordinary Thursday afternoon all the more shocking. Tom had just finished mowing their front lawn, carefully trimming the edges to maintain that picture-perfect look Maple Hills residents valued. Sarah was in the kitchen, apron dusted lightly with flour, preparing a fresh apple pie for Mrs. Anderson, their elderly neighbor recovering from recent surgery. The aroma of cinnamon and apples drifted through the house, reinforcing the sense of comforting normalcy. But the tranquility of the day shattered abruptly with a loud knock at their door, sharp, authoritative, out of place. Tom opened it cautiously, greeted by two men wearing dark blue uniforms, polished badges glinting in the sunlight. They introduced themselves briskly as HOA enforcement officers, flashing credentials that looked authentic at first glance. Tom immediately felt uneasy. He knew their homeowners association well, friendly volunteers with clipboards and newsletters, not uniformed officers. Something wasn't right. Before Tom could fully question their presence, one officer spoke in a tone filled with urgency and hostility, demanding to speak to Sarah. Tom's pulse quickened as suspicion tightened in his chest. He hesitated, sensing danger where others might have seen routine authority. "Sarah," Tom called quietly, fighting to keep the tremble from his voice, "can you come here, please?" As Sarah stepped into the foyer, wiping flour from her hands, the men's eyes narrowed, and their posture stiffened. Tom's heart raced as he realized their peaceful neighborhood, the comforting routine he'd always relied upon, was suddenly and dangerously unraveling right before their eyes. Tom stood uneasily at the doorway, studying the two uniformed men who had introduced themselves as officers representing Maple Hills Homeowners Association Enforcement Unit. Their dark navy uniforms were crisp and professional looking, complete with shiny badges engraved with the HOA logo, an appearance meant to evoke trust and authority. Yet, something felt profoundly off to Tom, who had spent decades living in this peaceful suburb. One of the men stepped forward confidently, Introducing himself as Officer Bennett, his partner, Officer Cole, stood slightly behind, holding an official-looking clipboard bearing the familiar Maple Hills logo. Their demeanor was assertive, bordering on aggressive, a stark contrast to the courteous, neighborly manner Tom had come to expect from any genuine HOA representative. "Mr. Peterson," Bennett began sternly, glancing briefly at his clipboard, "we're here to speak to your wife, Sarah Peterson. We have credible reports of her involvement in serious neighborhood violations." Tom felt a chill ripple down his spine, though outwardly he remained composed. "Serious violations," he echoed skeptically, instinctively protective of Sarah. "I'm sorry, officers, but there's clearly some mistake. I've lived in Maple Hills for nearly 25 years, and I've never known our HOA to have an enforcement division." Bennett's eyes narrowed subtly, irritation crossing his carefully controlled expression. "Recent changes," he replied curtly, without offering details. "We're here to investigate unauthorized surveillance equipment being used in the neighborhood." Tom's confusion deepened. Surveillance equipment? The accusation was bizarre, absurd even. Before Tom could respond further, Sarah appeared from the kitchen, calmly wiping flour-covered hands on her apron. The men immediately fixed their attention upon her, their posture tense, predatory. "Mrs. Peterson," Bennett spoke firmly, stepping slightly forward as if asserting dominance, "you're required to accompany us immediately for questioning." Sarah paused for a fraction of a second, her eyes flickering briefly over the men's uniforms and badges. Tom recognized instantly the subtle shift in her demeanor, the calm precision she reserved for high-stakes CIA missions. Her voice was quiet yet commanding, carrying no hint of anxiety. "Gentlemen, perhaps we could step outside and discuss this calmly." Officer Cole's lips twisted into a faint smirk, dismissive and condescending. "We're beyond discussion, ma'am. You're under arrest." Before Tom could react, the men roughly moved toward Sarah, gripping her wrists firmly. The sudden aggression stunned him, adrenaline surged, panic and anger flooding his veins. "This is outrageous," Tom shouted, stepping forward protectively. "You have no authority to arrest anyone." Neighbors, sensing something unusual, began stepping out onto their lawns and porches, their faces a mixture of curiosity and alarm. Gossip in Maple Hills traveled fast, and this confrontation had immediately drawn attention. Mrs. Anderson, still recovering from surgery, clutched her phone, trembling fingers dialing for the real authorities. Yet, throughout the chaos, Sarah remained eerily composed, offering no resistance. She met Tom's frantic gaze calmly, reassuring him with quiet strength. He recognized that look, a silent message urging him to remain calm and alert. Beneath her quiet exterior, Sarah was preparing herself, carefully observing and recording every detail. As Tom watched helplessly, the two imposters pushed Sarah toward a dark SUV marked with a fake HOA enforcement logo, leaving him standing alone, heart racing, mind spinning, knowing that life in their peaceful neighborhood had just been shattered irreversibly. To the neighbors of Maple Hills, Sarah Peterson was simply the gentle, kind-hearted woman who baked the best apple pies in the neighborhood, volunteered at church fundraisers, and always lent a helping hand to those in need. Her soft-spoken nature and quiet presence were comforting fixtures on their tree-lined street. But beneath her seemingly ordinary exterior was an extraordinary secret, one that only her husband, Tom, fully understood. For more than 2 decades, Sarah had served as a senior analyst for the Central Intelligence Agency. Her job required her to manage sensitive data operations involving national security, infiltrating digital networks and tracking dangerous threats across the globe. Her professional life was hidden meticulously beneath a cover identity that most neighbors found convincingly mundane, a technology consultant for a modest startup in Aurora, Colorado. It was the perfect disguise, unremarkable, easily forgettable, offering plausible reasons for occasional business trips and late-night hours spent quietly at her computer. Sarah's double life had been carefully constructed over the years, each detail thoughtfully considered to maintain absolute secrecy. Tom often marveled at how effortlessly she moved between these worlds, compartmentalizing her public and private personas with remarkable precision. She could prepare Thanksgiving dinner for their extended family one evening and then discreetly analyze critical intelligence reports for the government the next, all without missing a beat. The afternoon Sarah was forcefully escorted from their home by the fake HOA officers, however, marked the first time her secret identity was at risk of exposure. Yet even as she was led away, Sarah maintained complete composure, her calm exterior masking the swift mental calculations occurring beneath the surface. From the moment the imposters appeared at their doorstep, Sarah had activated a covert emergency protocol, a fail-safe communication system designed specifically for CIA personnel facing imminent threats. As Tom stood helplessly watching from the driveway, his phone suddenly buzzed. Glancing down, he saw an unknown number flashing urgently on the screen. He answered nervously, only to hear a voice he recognized instantly, Margaret Reed, Sarah's direct supervisor at the CIA. "Tom, remain calm," Margaret instructed firmly. Sarah activated her emergency beacon. "We're tracking your location and deploying a response team immediately." Tom's heart raced wildly, realizing the true gravity of what was happening. Sarah's discreet gesture, her composed demeanor during the arrest, everything suddenly made sense. She hadn't fought back or panicked precisely because she knew help was already on the way. Margaret's call was a powerful reminder of just how significant and dangerous Sarah's secret life truly was. He looked up, eyes following the dark SUV where his wife sat quietly restrained. In that moment, Tom felt a surge of both pride and deep anxiety, pride in Sarah's courage, skill, and resilience, and anxiety over the precarious nature of the life they had chosen to lead. Their peaceful existence had always carried unseen risks Sarah had carefully shielded their family and neighbors from for years. As neighbors continued gathering anxiously on their lawns, unaware of the unfolding drama's true scope, Tom recognized the profound weight of Sarah's hidden sacrifice. He silently vowed that no matter what came next, he would stand by her side, fiercely guarding the extraordinary woman whose quiet strength had always protected them all. Standing on his driveway, Tom Peterson felt a powerful surge of dread as the fake HOA officers pushed his wife, Sarah, toward the waiting SUV. The vehicle's dark-tinted windows concealed her expression, yet Tom could vividly imagine her quiet resolve. He knew Sarah well enough to recognize her calm exterior masked swift strategic thinking. She wouldn't panic. Not now. Not ever. Desperation propelled Tom forward as the SUV's engine roared to life. Without a second thought, he rushed toward the driver's side, waving his arms in an effort to block their path. Officer Bennett slammed the brakes, the tires screeching to an abrupt halt mere inches from Tom's knees. Bennett's partner, Officer Cole, shouted angrily from the passenger window, "You're interfering with official HOA business. Stand aside, or we'll take you too." Tom stood firm, his voice steady but loud enough for neighbors to hear clearly. "You have no authority here. This is kidnapping." Neighbors gathered rapidly, alarmed by the shouting. Some held cell phones, recording every moment, while others simply watched anxiously, unsure what to do. Teenagers filmed nervously, streaming live footage online. Tom's heart pounded as the tense standoff escalated, his mind racing to buy as much time as possible. Sarah's CIA supervisor, Margaret Reed, had assured him help was on the way. Cole's hand drifted ominously toward a gun at his belt, the tension becoming dangerously palpable. Tom's breathing tightened, fear gripping his chest. Before the imposters could react further, the distant wail of sirens sliced through the tension-filled silence. Not the familiar pitch of local Denver police cruisers, but something sharper, more authoritative. Moments later, two sleek black SUVs with tinted windows sped into view, tires skidding to a decisive halt in front of Tom's home. Doors swung open immediately, revealing agents dressed plainly yet clearly trained for swift action. Neighbors gasped quietly at the sight, suddenly aware this was far more serious than a simple HOA dispute. Leading the group was Margaret Reed herself, tall and distinguished, silver hair shining in the fading sunlight. She assessed the chaotic scene in a single sharp glance, instantly recognizing the imposter's bluff. Margaret's authoritative voice rang out clearly, carrying undeniable force. Step away from the vehicle and release Sarah Peterson immediately. Bennett and Cole, suddenly robbed of their false bravado, exchanged frantic glances. Cole attempted to flee, desperately fumbling with the SUV's passenger door handle, but was swiftly tackled by two CIA agents. Bennett sat paralyzed behind the wheel, shock visibly etched across his face. The agents surrounded the vehicle quickly, weapons drawn yet carefully restrained. The neighborhood fell utterly silent, disbelief clear on every face. Maple Hills, a tranquil community of backyard barbecues and weekend gardening, had become the surreal backdrop of a dramatic showdown worthy of a Hollywood thriller. Margaret motioned for Tom to remain calm as agents forced Bennett from the driver's seat, cuffing him securely. Sarah stepped gracefully from the SUV moments later, wrists still bound by plastic zip ties. Margaret immediately freed her, exchanging a brief but meaningful glance with her trusted analyst. Sarah approached Bennett and Cole, who now stood subdued and ashamed, all their fabricated authority stripped away. Her voice was calm yet powerful, addressing them for the first time openly as a CIA operative. "Who sent you?" Their silence spoke volumes. The charade had unraveled completely. Margaret approached Tom gently, reassuring him with quiet dignity. "Your wife's quick thinking saved lives today," she said softly. She activated a critical CIA protocol, allowing us to respond immediately. The situation could have been far worse. Tom nodded slowly, pride mixing with lingering shock. His quiet, unassuming wife had once again proven her remarkable courage under extraordinary circumstances. The afternoon sun set over Maple Hills, casting long shadows across lawns and driveways, a peaceful community now forever changed by a single, unforgettable moment. Standing on his driveway, Tom Peterson felt a powerful surge of dread as the fake HOA officers pushed his wife, Sarah, toward the waiting SUV. The vehicle's dark-tinted windows concealed her expression, yet Tom could vividly imagine her quiet resolve. He knew Sarah well enough to recognize her calm exterior masked swift strategic thinking. She wouldn't panic. Not now. Not ever. Desperation propelled Tom forward as the SUV's engine roared to life. Without a second thought, he rushed toward the driver's side, waving his arms in an effort to block their path. Officer Bennett slammed the brakes, the tires screeching to an abrupt halt mere inches from Tom's knees. Bennett's partner, Officer Cole, shouted angrily from the passenger window, "You're interfering with official HOA business. Stand aside, or we'll take you too." Tom stood firm, his voice steady but loud enough for neighbors to hear clearly. "You have no authority here. This is kidnapping." Neighbors gathered rapidly, alarmed by the shouting. Some held cell phones, recording every moment, while others simply watched anxiously, unsure what to do. Teenagers filmed nervously, streaming live footage online. Tom's heart pounded as the tense standoff escalated, his mind racing to buy as much time as possible. Sarah's CIA supervisor, Margaret Reed, had assured him help was on the way. Cole's hand drifted ominously toward a gun at his belt, the tension becoming dangerously palpable. Tom's breathing tightened, fear gripping his chest. Before the imposters could react further, the distant wail of sirens sliced through the tension-filled silence. Not the familiar pitch of local Denver police cruisers, but something sharper, more authoritative. Moments later, two sleek black SUVs with tinted windows sped into view, tires skidding to a decisive halt in front of Tom's home. Doors swung open immediately, revealing agents dressed plainly yet clearly trained for swift action. Neighbors gasped quietly at the sight, suddenly aware this was far more serious than a simple HOA dispute. Leading the group was Margaret Reed herself, tall and distinguished, silver hair shining in the fading sunlight. She assessed the chaotic scene in a single sharp glance, instantly recognizing the imposter's bluff. Margaret's authoritative voice rang out clearly, carrying undeniable force. "Step away from the vehicle and release Sarah Peterson immediately." Bennett and Cole, suddenly robbed of their false bravado, exchanged frantic glances. Cole attempted to flee, desperately fumbling with the SUV's passenger door handle, but was swiftly tackled by two CIA agents. Bennett sat paralyzed behind the wheel, shock visibly etched across his face. The agents surrounded the vehicle quickly, weapons drawn yet carefully restrained. The neighborhood fell utterly silent, disbelief clear on every face. Maple Hills, a tranquil community of backyard barbecues and weekend gardening, had become the surreal backdrop of a dramatic showdown worthy of a Hollywood thriller. Margaret motioned for Tom to remain calm as agents forced Bennett from the driver's seat, cuffing him securely. Sarah stepped gracefully from the SUV moments later, wrists still bound by plastic zip ties. Margaret immediately freed her, exchanging a brief but meaningful glance with her trusted analyst. Sarah approached Bennett and Cole, who now stood subdued and ashamed, all their fabricated authority stripped away. Her voice was calm yet powerful, addressing them for the first time openly as a CIA operative. "Who sent you?" Their silence spoke volumes. The charade had unraveled completely. Margaret approached Tom gently, reassuring him with quiet dignity. "Your wife's quick thinking saved lives today," she said softly. "She activated a critical CIA protocol, allowing us to respond immediately. The situation could have been far worse." Tom nodded slowly, pride mixing with lingering shock. His quiet, unassuming wife had once again proven her remarkable courage under extraordinary circumstances. The afternoon sun set over Maple Hills, casting long shadows across lawns and driveways, a peaceful community now forever changed by a single, unforgettable moment. After the dramatic arrest of the fake HOA officers, the quiet streets of Maple Hills seemed unusually tense. Neighbors stood in clusters, whispering anxiously, each recounting their perspectives on the surreal incident. Tom Peterson watched with a heavy heart, realizing that the peace and security they'd all cherished had suddenly become fragile and uncertain. CIA agents moved quickly, methodically searching the imposter's vehicle. Margaret Reed, Sarah's supervisor, oversaw the operation with calm, decisive authority. Within minutes, an agent wearing protective gloves emerged from the SUV holding a small electronic device with a blinking red indicator, a GPS tracker connected to a concealed circuit board. The agent's voice carried urgency. "We found something suspicious, possibly an explosive or surveillance device." Gasps rippled through the gathering neighbors, several stepping backward in alarm. Margaret instructed the bomb disposal team to thoroughly inspect not only the SUV but also nearby vehicles and the surrounding street. The atmosphere grew heavier with each passing minute, neighbors struggling to understand how their quiet suburb had become the target of such malicious intent. Sarah, still composed despite the harrowing ordeal, immediately turned her attention toward questioning Bennett and Cole. With a cool determination Tom had seen before only in rare glimpses, she asked firmly, "Who do you work for, and why target this neighborhood?" Cole, visibly shaken, stammered anxiously, We were hired. It was just a job." His vague response confirmed their suspicions. This incident wasn't isolated but part of a larger, organized scheme. Margaret turned quietly to Tom, explaining in a hushed but urgent tone, "Sarah's been investigating a sophisticated criminal network posing as local officials. We never expected them to escalate to kidnapping in broad daylight." Tom felt his stomach tighten, realizing this threat extended far beyond a simple scam. Suddenly, past peculiarities clicked into place, like the unmarked van seen several nights near the community pool, swiftly driving off when approached, and suspicious vehicles slowly cruising through Maple Hills after dark. A local police captain arrived, clearly taken aback by the scale of the situation. Margaret quickly provided identification and briefed him, maintaining federal jurisdiction due to the national security implications. Local officers promptly cordoned off the area with yellow caution tape, creating a surreal scene beneath the fading Colorado sky. One by one, neighbors stepped forward, sharing encounters they previously dismissed as minor annoyances. Mrs. Anderson mentioned being approached about a violation involving her garden ornaments. Another resident recounted an aggressive request for an immediate fine payment, suspiciously handled without proper documentation. It became clear this network had targeted multiple residents, exploiting their trust in community authority. Later, Margaret discreetly informed Tom and Sarah that the CIA had linked this group to a larger criminal enterprise specializing in collecting personal and sensitive information about government officials and selling it on the dark web. Sarah had likely been targeted due to her involvement in classified projects. Tom gripped Sarah's hand tightly, confronting the chilling reality: their peaceful lives had been meticulously invaded. Yet amid the fear, he felt pride in Sarah's bravery and the quick actions that exposed a dangerous threat lurking behind Maple Hill's comforting facade. Their community had narrowly avoided disaster, but the ordeal was far from over. In the days following the unsettling discovery in Maple Hills, Sarah Peterson was swiftly called upon to assist the CIA in dismantling the broader espionage network. Tom watched anxiously as Sarah prepared for what promised to be one of her most critical missions. She reassured him gently, yet he saw the quiet determination etched into her calm expression, the same strength that had defined their marriage for decades. Under the guidance of Margaret Reed, a veteran CIA supervisor renowned for overseeing successful operations, Sarah joined a specialized task force dedicated to tracking down the masterminds behind the elaborate scheme. The trail led them to a discreet storage facility just outside Omaha, Nebraska, chosen by the criminals precisely for its isolation and inconspicuous nature. On a quiet Tuesday evening, Tom received an unexpected visitor at home, Margaret herself, arriving in an unmarked government sedan. Inviting Tom to join her inside, she opened an encrypted laptop displaying a live audio feed. His heart quickened upon hearing Sarah's familiar voice issuing steady, precise commands over the speaker. "Entry teams in position," Sarah announced clearly, her voice reflecting both authority and unwavering composure. Tom listened, transfixed, as the operation unfolded in real time. Tactical teams, coordinating seamlessly, maneuvered carefully toward their target. Tense moments passed, punctuated by whispered commands and measured breathing from the agents involved. Then, chaos erupted briefly. The sounds of hurried footsteps, urgent shouts, and scattered gunfire echoed sharply through the feed. Tom's pulse raced with dread, his grip tightening on the laptop. Margaret gently placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder, quietly mouthing the words, "She's okay." Seconds later, Sarah's voice returned calmly, reporting, "Target secured. Multiple suspects apprehended. Stolen data hardware recovered intact. No casualties on our side." A profound wave of relief washed over Tom. Margaret, visibly relieved herself, closed the laptop, affirming, "They did it. The network is down." The next morning, news broke nationwide about the successful federal operation that had dismantled an extensive criminal enterprise targeting government employees. Authorities had recovered troves of stolen data intended for sale on the dark web, effectively neutralizing threats against countless individuals. It was quietly hailed as one of the CIA's most effective domestic interventions in recent history. Back in Maple Hills, neighbors expressed both astonishment and admiration, slowly piecing together Sarah's previously hidden role. They felt a renewed sense of collective pride, knowing their community had been instrumental in uncovering the dangerous conspiracy. When Sarah returned home several days later, her reunion with Tom was quiet yet powerful, a reminder of their enduring bond. Together, they reflected on the extraordinary chain of events sparked by a seemingly minor HOA violation, proof that danger could appear under even the most benign disguises. Maple Hills, once known only for potlucks and gardening clubs, now carried a story of resilience and vigilance. Residents became closer, determined to protect the tranquility they cherished. Meanwhile, the captured spies faced multiple federal charges, awaiting justice behind bars. As life slowly resumed its gentle rhythm, Tom and Sarah knew they had weathered an unprecedented storm. Their shared strength had guided them through uncertainty, reinforcing the powerful truth that courage and vigilance can triumph even in the face of hidden dangers lurking behind suburban tranquility. Life often reminds us that even the safest neighborhoods can conceal hidden dangers. The events in Maple Hills serve as a powerful lesson: vigilance is not paranoia, it's wisdom. Especially for those of us who've reached an age of reflection, experience teaches us the importance of questioning appearances and trusting our instincts. Another crucial message is the strength found in unity and community. When faced with threats or uncertainty, neighbors coming together creates a force far stronger than any single person standing alone. The bonds we form within our communities, sharing kindness, looking out for one another, staying alert to unusual activities, can make all the difference when trouble arrives unexpectedly at our doorsteps. Additionally, courage is not always loud or dramatic. Often, it manifests quietly, as calm determination in the face of adversity. Sarah Peterson's steady composure during a crisis reminds us that true bravery means keeping our heads clear, hearts open, and actions purposeful, even when life is most challenging. Lastly, honesty and integrity will ultimately expose deceit, no matter how cleverly hidden. Those who pretend to hold power unjustly, like the imposters who disrupted Maple Hills, eventually reveal themselves under the weight of truth and justice. As seniors who have seen much in life, we hold the responsibility and privilege of guiding younger generations by example. Let's remain watchful yet compassionate, courageous yet calm, always upholding values that protect the harmony and safety of our communities. After all, our vigilance and wisdom today ensure a safer, brighter future for those who follow us. In the weeks following the dramatic events, Maple Hills gradually reclaimed its familiar peace. Though life slowly returned to its comforting routines, Sunday afternoon barbecues, neighbors greeting each other warmly from porches, and the gentle hum of lawnmowers, the community had undeniably changed. For Tom and Sarah Peterson, the ordeal had drawn them even closer, deepening a mutual appreciation forged by decades of marriage. Sarah quietly returned to her unassuming role as a technology consultant, resuming the gentle rhythms of suburban life. Yet beneath the normalcy, a subtle vigilance lingered, a constant awareness that threats might hide in plain sight. Their neighbors, initially shaken by the experience, found new strength and unity. Community meetings, once focused solely on holiday decorations or local beautification projects, now included thoughtful discussions about neighborhood safety and security. Many homeowners upgraded locks, installed discreet surveillance cameras, and organized regular neighborhood watch meetings. Ironically, the false HOA officers had succeeded in only one thing: making Maple Hills a stronger, more tightly knit community than ever before. Over coffee and pie, friends spoke openly about how easily trust could be manipulated, vowing never to assume safety was automatic. Even the teenagers became more cautious online, aware of how quickly danger could strike in unexpected forms. The quiet suburb had learned a critical lesson: vigilance, tempered by neighborly care, was essential. Meanwhile, justice moved swiftly. The imposters, Bennett and Cole, along with their accomplices, faced multiple federal charges, including kidnapping, conspiracy, and espionage. The media coverage, initially sensational, soon turned into a sober examination of how easily deceptive authority could infiltrate ordinary life. Sarah's role remained quietly confidential, honored only within certain discreet circles, allowing her to maintain anonymity. Yet, subtle reminders of that fateful event endured. Unmarked cars occasionally drove through, reassuring residents that the federal government maintained a watchful presence. A newfound respect and curiosity about Sarah's quiet strength became part of neighborhood lore, whispered with pride among trusted friends. As Maple Hills residents resumed familiar routines, planting flowers, baking pies, attending grandchildren's baseball games, they now carried with them a profound appreciation for their community's resilience. Tom often reflected on how the crisis had not weakened, but strengthened them all, reinforcing bonds of friendship and trust. Together, they learned that true security arises not only from locks and alarms, but from unity, awareness, and the shared courage to protect the peace they all cherished.